It is our summer beach read series continuing on this Tuesday morning. Sandra Brown is the author of over 64 New York Times bestsellers. There are over 80 million copies of her books in print worldwide. She lives in Texas, and she is with us right now. Sandra, good morning.
Good morning.
I mentioned earlier this morning you were going to be on the show, and someone called and said, "What time is that? I have every one of her books." So, nice.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah,
Thank you.
The new one, Mean Streak, goes on sale today. Yeah, and tell me a little now. Number one, when did you finish this? Because you finish these at least 6 monst before they go out, right?
Yeah, I was a little behind this year because I'd actually started another book, another storyline, and I got into it, and it just wasn't thrilling me. And out of nowhere, I thought up this prologue, what turned out to be the prologue for Mean Streak, and I thought, ooh, I don't know what's going to happen, but I can't wait to see what's going to happen. And I think that's the way the reader will be when they pick up Mean Streak. Something occurs that is rather chilling, and that's where I got the idea, and I just went with it for a few weeks. Turned out to be a whole lot more fun, I thought, than the other book I was writing. So I was a little behind this year, but we've had plenty of time to put together what I think is a terrific cover, and I hope the readers will like the story. I did.
Wow. I'm always amazed at how the creative process works, and here you were.
It sort of amazes me, too.
Oh, okay. Here you were involved in another project, and you get an idea for this and decide to run with it.
Mm-hmm. I pay attention to those gut instincts, though. They've endured for the last 30-some-odd years that I've been writing, and I'm my first reader. And before I'm a writer, I'm a reader. So if it's not exciting me, then I know I've got to ratchet up the tension. I've got to throw in a twist. I've got to do something that kind of pops everybody up. And so I pay attention to those gut instincts. I listen to my gut. And if something doesn't feel right or I'm not having a good time, then I don't think the reader is going to either.
Let's talk for a moment about this genre that you're in, which is pretty much a male-dominated genre, isn't it?
It has been. In years past, I think people associated thriller, blood and guts, espionage, military, all of those sort of subgenres toward a male audience and to a male writer. But a lot of women have really penetrated that marketplace. In my instance, I brought elements of romance into the stories, and I think it's a great combo because the love story only increases the stakes for the protagonist and adds to the tension. And by the same token, the danger they're in increases the tension in the romance. So it's kind of a symbiotic relationship, and I think it works very well.
It does make sense when you put it that way.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you grow up reading stories like this?
Yes, I did, but they were written largely by male.
Men, yeah.
You know, Frederick Forsyth and Jean Le Carré. But there were also some women who influenced me greatly. One in particular was an English woman named Evelyn Anthony. She wrote under that name. And she wrote about espionage, spies, and so on after World War II, and largely set in Europe or England. But she always had a very strong love story. And I used to just eat her books. You know, I just loved them. And so I think she influenced my writing greatly.
We're talking to Sandra Brown, the author of, 64 books. The newest one is Mean Streak.
Yeah, well, I've written more than that. I've had 64 on the New York Times bestseller list.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're hoping Mean Streak will be number 65.
How do you keep it fresh? I mean, do you ever wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, okay, I need a new idea"?
Yeah, well, I wake up every morning that way, and I sometimes can't wait to get to work to see what's going to happen because I will have left the characters kind of in a lurch.
That's great.
But I with each book, I try to do something a little different. And in Mean Streak in particular, I don't give the hero a name until like 3/4 of the way through the book. I thought it would be interesting to know absolutely nothing about this character, not even his name. And so none of the other characters know it. The reader doesn't know it until they get way over into the book. And I think that this helped, maintain the tension and keep the reader asking, who is this guy? What has he done? Why is he so mysterious and so taciturn? And why doesn't he reveal anything about himself? And really made him, I thought, a fascinating character to write about. And it was a challenge to me because it's very difficult to write a scene, particularly when there are several characters and you're not using a name for one of them. I had to rely strictly on pronouns and still have it make sense, still have it clear to the reader who I was talking about. So in that way, it kind of kept me on my toes.
I guess.
And that's how I keep it fresh.
Now, how do you research a novel? For instance, there's a scene in this one takes place in the woods. Did you actually go there?
Oh, yeah. I spent a lot of time in the western mountains of North Carolina where Mean Streak is set. And just this week I was there, and I was on the trail that inspired that first scene. And I stopped and took a snapshot of it on my phone, and I posted it on my Facebook, and I said, this is the scene of the crime, so to speak. I returned to the scene of the crime where I got inspired to write Mean Streak. But I try to make the books anything that I say in them as authentic as I can possibly make it. If there's some kind of technology that I don't understand completely, then certainly I seek resources who can fill in all the blanks for me. And I want them to be accurate. By the same token, I don't like to beat my reader down with a lot of information that doesn't apply to the story, because when I read a book, I get kind of resentful of an author who's just showing off how much knowledge they have about something.
Yeah, I read a book recently, and I even forget who the author was, but it was loaded with so many facts and details about machinery, and I got lost.
When I feel like the author is trying to impress me, but how smart they are, I'm like, come on, let's just get back into the story.
It's all about the story, right? You're a storyteller.
It's all about the story, absolutely.
Now, I read in some of the notes here that you went on a USO tour recently.
I did,
yeah. What was that like?
Oh, it was a remarkable journey. It was a remarkable 9 days out of my life. It was in late 2011. And I went to Afghanistan, and it was, I went with 4 colleagues. They were all thriller writers, and we did meet and greets with the service men and women, and it was just incredible. There are a lot of readers over there and a lot of fans, which was certainly gratifying, but even the service members who had not read us but just wanted to shake hands with somebody from home, hear something from home. And it was so touching, and it was so revealing to us, to our group, just what a sacrifice these people make. And we forget about them, and they're over there daily, placing their lives on the line, performing construction jobs. They work in the medical field. There are vendors over there who are not even members of the military. The civilian servicemen and women were just amazing to me. That they give up, their family life for several months and go over there and work. And it was a remarkable trip. I will never forget it. And it really brought home what sacrifices they made.
Right. That was 3 years ago. Have any of them made their way into a book?
Yes, in fact. Deadline, which is in paperback now, it was my book last year, is about a journalist who comes home with post-traumatic stress. We hear about service members, soldiers, sailors, Marines, coming home and suffering from the disorder, but we don't hear about civilians. So I got to thinking about that, and I thought, surely they've got to be out there. So I created a character named Dawson Scott, who is returning from 9 months covering, the battlefield. And like most sufferers, he does not want to tell anybody, that he
Right.
suffers from the disorder. So I dealt with that subject in Deadline.
Sandra, it's been such a pleasure having you on. The new book is called Mean Streak. It is out today. You can go to sandrabrown.net, and she's also on Facebook and Twitter. Best of luck, and hopefully this is, number 65 on the bestseller list.
So thank you so much for having me this morning.
All right, have a great day.
Thank you.
Your lips say come and kiss me, and they haven't made a sound. Your hips say come on with me, when you're just walking around.
My heart beats like thunder every time you come into view. This thing is bigger than both of us. I know you know it too. You got a big, big, big bad love. Bad love.
Yeah, well, we fit like a hand in a glove. You got a big, big, big bad love.
Big bad love.
We hope you enjoyed this WBSM presentation. We're always producing great new content, and you don't have to miss a moment. Click subscribe to get all our videos delivered right to your inbox. Click Morning Show to watch more videos featuring Pete and Casey.